Good morning, Metalheads here now. Welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown, and today we're looking at the latest album from Possessed entitled Revelations of Oblivion. Possessed is back, often considered to be the very first death metal band ever. They laid the groundwork for Death and Cannibal Corpse and Morbid Angel and Obituary and all these amazing bands that still tour today and we still talk about today. Okay, well, technically Death is under the Death to All banner or whatever it's called, but you get the idea. You fucking get the idea. If you're a younger death metal fan or just a more casual death metal listener, don't worry, I'll forgive you for not knowing who they are right off the bat, considering, again, 33 years, no album, and not a lot of touring as far as I can tell. Definitely a lot of festival appearances, but I don't really know if they've done a full-blown tour, at least not here in North America, for a long time. And then there's just the fact that they ultimately don't have the massive appeal and commercial success of, well, all the bands that we just mentioned, particularly Death and Cannibal Corpse, who I think most of us would agree are the poster boys for this entire genre. And then on top of that, there's just the argument that maybe they aren't even a death metal band at all. I've seen this argument pop up a couple of times. I would personally argue that while they are very influential and insanely important to the genre, that they're really more of a really dirty underground thrash metal band. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of early death metal and thrash metal from that time kind of bleeds together, and it ultimately comes down to production value, and vocals is where you see real differences. And Possessed do kind of sound more like a thrash band. They're a lot like Venom in that aspect. Venom is not black metal, but they paved the way for everything that black metal would become. So, you know, they skate that line pretty well. The grand point I'm trying to make here is that there's a good chance some of you don't know who Possessed is, and this is your first time listening to them. And that's actually a good thing, because I think this album does a better job at showcasing everything this band is about than any of the band's other works. Which isn't to discredit Seven Churches or anything else that Possessed have done. They've made some really good albums, but I think undeniably this is their best. It has literally been 33 years since a full original studio album from Possessed, and honestly you do get the vibe that Possessed have spent all 33 of those years crafting this record together. It's immaculately well produced. The music is it's immaculately well produced, crystal clear almost, without compromising any of the raw essence that we expect from this genre. It's incredibly sharp musically. It's razor sharp, in fact, tight as fuck. The musicianship on this thing is great. And it has the heart of old school Possessed, but far more advanced, far more modern. Feels like a remaster or even a remake of an older Possessed record. You know, we see so many bands trying to recapture these kind of glory days of 80s thrash and extreme metal. You know, you got Power Trip, you got Bewitcher, you got Gruesome, and don't get me wrong, I think all these bands are awesome. But none of them have ever quite hit the mark, not for me at least. And it seems pretty obvious in retrospect that the answer the whole time is that we just needed a really old school forgotten band to come up and just wipe the floor and show these fucking kids how it's done. And if nothing I've said has convinced you at this point, then opening track No More Room in Hell certainly will. This song was actually released about 2 months ago as a promo single, and when I heard it the first time, I was kind of blown away. I mean, it's just a ripper of a fucking song. I mean, you've got face-melting guitar solos, insanely fast riffing and drumming, and some bemoaning vocals from Jeff Becerra. And despite having its squeaky clean sound mix, this still feels like 80s Possessed. The heart, the soul, the essence of that band, the same elements that made them who they are and that paved the way for death metal remain. In fact, if anything, they are 100% enhanced, as this new sound mix is highlighting a lot more of the band's thrash metal flavors, and it makes them feel all the more volatile and potent in the 21st century. Now, I did have the fear that this album would lose steam after this first track. I was worried that the band would find themselves settling into a pretty predictable pattern, and the album would just kind of grow stale. And I am right that they fell into a pattern, but they executed it so fucking well that I don't really think I care. Like, sure, it's not the most expansive or progressive thing in the world, but then again, I don't need it to be. There's a good chance that longtime Possessed fans don't need it to be, and if you're a brand new fan, you don't really know any better, so I do not see this being a problem for anyone. And even if it is a problem for you, which again, it really shouldn't, there are so many bands out there that have done that I don't really need Possessed to do that. Like, Death was the band that showed what death metal was capable of by doing records like Spiritual Healing and The Sound of Perseverance, whereas Possessed is the band that shows what death metal really is at the core, even in its most primal moments. And again, really what they've done is they've brought that to the 21st century. Every track is an and again, what they've done here is they've really just brought that to the 21st century with better production value, better songwriting, sharper musicianship, and just a more consistent flow. I mean, following tracks, Domination, it's a fucking banger, full of really big, brimming, hellish drums and more in-your-face vocals. Damned is a great number. Demon has these little doomy breaks that give it a lot of atmosphere. It creates a lot of great contrast when it gets into the more metallic death thrash nonsense. The album does inherently lose some steam, but only because it's almost an hour long. And at the same time, there's not a single track I'd really want to remove from here because all of them are just so good. So I'm going to give this thing a 4 out of 5. I was headbanging consistently through this entire record. I enjoyed the hell out of it. The things that normally bother me about these old school thrash and death metal records did not bother me here. I was not bothered by the fact that, yes, the album does have a pretty predictable pattern and flow to it. I was not bothered by the fact that the album does stretch on maybe a little long at some points. I was not bothered by these things because I was having fun, and Possessed accomplished everything that I think they wanted to accomplish and even what they needed to accomplish. There's no doubt in my mind that old school fans of thrash and death metal are going to have a fucking ball with this. I think Decibel Magazine have already proclaimed it as a potential album of the year contender. I am curious to see how younger fans of death metal respond to this, considering how much death metal has changed in these last few years, how much more brutal it is, I mean, fucking brutal death metal, for God's sakes. But that being said, I also think that you'd have to be a serious stick in the mud to not find anything to enjoy on this record. From what I understand, Jeff has been working on this record since 2012, and it really shows. Jeff, if you somehow hear this, you've done a great job. This is a seriously great record. I'm hoping I don't have to wait another 33 years for a full studio album. Very happy to see Possessed return. Curious to see if they take advantage of the new modern era of heavy metal to expand in the future. But for now, Revelations of Oblivion is exactly what it needs to be. A pure, true to form, Possessed album simply brought to the 21st century. 4 out of 5, a really great record. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.